And welcome back to Wednesday night Bible study at the Men and Women of Valor Church, Pentecostal Church located 347 6th Avenue, Newark, New Jersey. I am Dr. Forshea Wimbush, and they call me Tony, Pastor Tony. I'm the assistant pastor here for the English-speaking church for the Men and Women of Valor Pentecostal Church. And this is our Wednesday Bible study. Tuesday, we have Spanish Bible study. Wednesday, we have English Bible study from 8:30 to 9:30. And we're going to continue with our Bible study. And as I said before, we're going from Genesis to Revelations. We're still in Genesis. And we're where Joseph has become the right-hand man to Pharaoh. And there was the famine in the land. And his family came to buy grain from Egypt, and they didn't know they were buying it from him. And he put their money back in their sacks. And when they got back home, he took Simeon, one of his brothers, and said, "When you come back, bring your brother back, because I don't believe you are not spies." He told them he thought they were spies, and you got to bring your baby brother in order so that I know that you're not a spy. And so they go back home. They find their money in the sack, and they're really scared. They think they're being punished because of what they did to Joseph, which they actually are, but not the way they think they are. And then they tell their father, and the father says Simeon is already dead. He believes Simeon is already dead, the brother, because who would do something like this? But they run out of food. Now they have to go back and get some more food. So now the father gives in and says, "Take the baby brother with you, because we need to get more food." And we're going to go from there. So, Genesis 43, starting now at 19. Hence they approached the man who was over Joseph's house and spoke to him at the entrance of the house. And they said, "Excuse us, my lord. We surely did come down at the start to buy food. But what occurred was that when we came to the lodging place and began opening our bags, why, here was the money of each one in the mouth of his bag, our money in full weight. So we would like to return it with our own hands, and more money we have brought down in our hands to buy food. We certainly do not know who placed our money in our bags." Then he said, "It is all right with you. Do not be afraid. Your God and the God of your father gave you treasure in your bags. Your money came first to me, and after that, he brought out Simeon to them." Then the man brought the men into Joseph's house and gave water that they might have their feet washed, and he gave fodder for their asses. And they proceeded to get the gift ready for Joseph's coming at noon, because they had heard that it was there they were going to eat bread. When Joseph went into the house, then they brought the gift that was in their hand to him into the house and prostrated themselves to him to the earth. After this, he inquired whether they were getting along well, and said, "Is your father, the aged man of whom you have spoken, getting along well? Is he still alive?" To this they said, "Your servant, our father, is getting along well. He is still alive." Then they bowed down and prostrated themselves. When he raised his eyes and saw Benjamin, his brother, the son of the mother, he went on to say, "Is this your brother, the youngest one of whom you have spoken to me?" And he added, "May God show you his favor, my son." Joseph was now in a hurry, because his inward emotions were excited toward his brother, so that he looked for a place to weep, and he went into an interior room and gave way to tears there. So they did bring his brother. Who was the youngest brother's name? So they did Benjamin. They brought Benjamin, and they found out Simeon was still alive. They brought all the money that they had that they didn't know how it got back into their thing. They brought him extra money, so they paid him for that and some more money for the food they needed. They also brought him gifts, and they lay prostrate in front of him. as Joseph's dream was. Joseph had already told them this is what was going to happen. They had no idea it was Joseph yet. So Joseph was happy when he found out his father was still alive. He got to know his little brother, because he didn't know Benjamin, of course. He got to know his little brother. Of course, he probably kept Simeon in good standing, and Simeon didn't understand why. And so he got emotional. And he went into one of his interior rooms, and he started to cry. So let's see what takes place now. After that, he washed his face and went out and kept control of himself and said, "Set up on the meal." And they proceeded to set it for him by himself, for them by themselves, and for the Egyptians who were eating with him by themselves. For the Egyptians were not able to eat a meal with the Hebrews, because that is a detestable thing to the Egyptians. Isn't that bizarre? The Egyptians thought they were better than the Hebrews, and they did not eat food with the Hebrews because it was a detestable thing. Yet, Joseph, a Hebrew, was running the country. Wow. Wow. Sounds like something is going on now, right? And they were seated before him, the firstborn according to his right as firstborn, and the youngest according to his youngness, and the men kept looking at one another in amazement. And he kept having portions carried from before him to them, but he would increase Benjamin's portion 5 times the size of the portions of all the others. So they continued banqueting and drinking with him to the full. Later on, he commanded the man who was over his house, saying, "Fill the bags of the men with food to the extent they are able to carry it, and place the money of each one in the mouth of his bag. But you must place my cup, the silver cup, in the mouth of the bag of the youngest, and the money for his cereals." So he did according to the word of Joseph, which he had spoken. The morning had become light when the men were sent away, both they and their asses. They went out of the city. They had not gone far when Joseph said to the man who was over his house, "Get up, chase after the men, and be certain to overtake them and to say to them, 'Why have you repaid bad for good? It is not this the thing that my master drinks from, and by means of which he expertly reads omens. It is a bad deed you have committed.'" So Joseph plants one of his cups in their bag. Why is Joseph playing this game for him? I guess he's going to let him suffer a little bit before he let them find out who he is. So Joseph, he plants one of his cups in their bag, sends them on their way, and has his servant go and chase them and basically accost them and tell them to come back. So this is what's going on. The morning had become light when the men were sent away, both they and their asses, okay? They went out to the city. They had not gone far when Joseph said to the man, his servant, "Chase him, get him." And they were saying, "Why have you done this? Is not this the thing that my master drinks from, and by means of which he expertly reads omens? It is a bad deed you have committed." Eventually he overtook them and spoke those words to them. But they said to him, "Why does my Lord speak with such words as these? It is unthinkable that your servants should do anything like this. Why, the money that we found in the mouth of our bags we brought back to you, and from the land of Canaan. How then could we steal silver or gold from the house of your master? Let the one of your slaves, with whom it may be found, die, and let us ourselves also become slaves to my master." So he said, "Let it be now exactly according to your words. Thus the one with whom it may be found will become a slave to me, but you yourselves will be proved innocent." With that, they quickly let down each one his bag to the earth, and they opened each one his own bag. And he went searching carefully. He started with the eldest and finished with the youngest. At last, the cup was found in Benjamin's bag. Then they ripped their mantles apart and lifted each one his load back unto his ass and returned to the city. And Judah and his brothers went on into Joseph's house, and he was still there, and they proceeded to fall before him to the earth. Joseph now said to them, "What sort of deed is this that you have done? Did you not know that such a man as I am can expertly read omens?" At this, Judah exclaimed, "What can we say to my master? What can we speak? How can we prove ourselves righteous? The truth, God has found out the error of your slaves. Here we are slaves to my master, both we and the one in whose hand the cup was found. However, he said, it is unthinkable for me to do this. The man in whose hand the cup was found is the one who will become a slave to me. As for the rest of you, go up in peace to your family." Judah now came near to him and said, "I pray you, my master, please let your slave speak a word in the hearing of my master, and do not let your anger grow hot against your slave, because it is the same with you as with Pharaoh." My master asked his slave, saying, "Do you have a father or a brother?" So we said to any master, "We do have an aged father and a child of his old age, the youngest. But his brother is dead, so that he alone is left of his mother, and his father does love him." After that, you said to your slaves, "Bring him down to me, that I may set my eye upon him." But we said to my master, "The boy is not able to leave his father. If he did leave his father, he would certainly die." Then you said to your slaves, "Unless your youngest brother comes down with you, you will not see my face anymore." And it came about that we went up to your slave, my father, and then told him the words of my master. Later our father said, "Return, buy a little food for us." But we said, "We were not able to go down. If our youngest brother is with us, we will go down, because we are not able to see the man's face in case our youngest brother is not with us." Then your slaves, my father said to us, "You yourselves will know that my wife bore but 2 sons to me. Later the one went out from my company, and I exclaimed, he must surely be torn to pieces, and I have not seen him till now. If you were to take this one also out of my sight, and a fatal accident were to befall him, you would certainly bring down my gray hairs and calamity to Sheol. And now as soon as I should come to your slave, my father, without the boy along with us, then that one's soul is bound up with this one's soul." So basically, they're explaining what happened to their other brother and saying that, because he put the cup in Joseph's bag, so he's going to keep Benjamin, rather. And they're explaining to Joseph what went wrong. Listen, his other son died, and this is the last of his sons that he had by his wife. I guess he had multiple wives. And if you take this one, it's going to be bad on our father. He's already old. He might die from heartache. And that's what they're exclaiming to him. But they really haven't explained and told the truth of what happened to Joseph. They just said that he was no longer alive, because they didn't know. All right? So that's what's going on. "Take yourselves wagon from the land of Egypt for your little ones and your wives, and you must lift your father one on one and come here. And do not let your eye feel sorry over your equipment, because the good of all the land of Egypt is yours." And news was heard at the house of Pharaoh, saying, "Joseph's brothers have come." Well, let me finish, go up and quickly. Okay, where was I? So basically, they're explaining what's going on. And let me get back to where I was. So go up quickly to my father, and you must say to him, this is what your son Joseph has said. God has appointed me Lord for all of Egypt. Okay, I haven't got there yet. And he began to raise his voice and weeping so that the Egyptians. At this, Joseph was no longer able to control himself before all those who were stationed by him. So he cried out, have everybody go out from me. And no one else stood with him while Joseph made himself known to his brothers. So eventually he made himself known to his brothers because he figured he had tortured them enough. So he made himself known to his brothers, and he began to raise his voice in weeping so that the Egyptians got to hear it, and Pharaoh's house got to hear it. Finally, Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father still alive? But his brothers were unable to answer him at all because they were disturbed by reason of him. So Joseph said to his brothers, come close to me, please. With that, they came close to him. Then he said, I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt. But now do not feel hurt and do not be angry with yourselves because you sold me here, because for the preservation of life, God has sent me ahead of you. For this is the second year of the famine in the midst of the earth, and there are yet 5 years in which there will be no plowing time or harvest. Consequently, God sent me ahead of you in order to place a remnant for you men in the earth and to keep you alive by a great escape. So now it was not you who sent me here, but it was the true God, that he might appoint me a father to Pharaoh and a lord of all his house, and as one dominating over all the land of Egypt. So he's like, I'm not mad at you guys. You guys sold me into slavery, and I got sold into Egypt. But God's purpose was always there. So I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at you anymore. I understand why God made this happen to me, because he made it so that I could come and save the land. So God redeemed Joseph's adversity by using his suffering. This is what I wrote down, to fulfill a greater purpose, ultimately saving his family and many lives from famine. Joseph's story demonstrates that God works through hardship and betrayal to bring about good, as Joseph himself recognized when he told his brothers, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. This redemption was achieved through Joseph's faithfulness, integrity, forgiveness, which led to his rise to power in Egypt. So, this is the thing. When you connect to God, no matter what your adversity is, as long as you stay faithful, you keep your integrity, and you forgive those who have done you wrong, God will bless you, and you will come out on time. So there's several points I want to make about Joseph's initial suffering. Joseph was betrayed, sold into slavery by his brothers, falsely accused, imprisoned, suffering significant hardship and loss. This happens to all of us. And it's definitely happened to Black folks. But I have to explain something about our culture. Our true culture as Black folks in America is our resilience and our creativity. So no matter what they've done to us, we have always come out on top. We are resilient in everything we do. And our creativity, they cannot deny. So that's a part of our culture. I was watching TV and somebody asked somebody, what's African Americans' culture? And it was some guy from Africa drilling this lady who was an African American. And she couldn't answer the question. And I'm thinking, there's so many things. But if you sum it up, it's our resilience and our creativity. Our creativity you cannot deny. We have invented mostly everything that people think that we haven't. You know, you're starting to get little tidbits with the movie where the women who were created the mathematical, actually figured out the mathematical equation to get the person to the moon. And you find out, hidden figures. You find out, without Lewis Latimer, without the doggone filament in the light bulb, it'd just be a piece of glass. There's so many things we've invented and we don't get credit for. Even the cell phone, the alarm on your house, the cell phone, computer chips. There's so many things we don't get credit for. But our creativity is undeniable. Our resilience, definitely undeniable. So for you out there who don't know what your African American culture is, whenever anybody asks you that, don't say hip hop music, jazz, blues, this and that. Oh yeah, that's all a part of our creativity. Say our resilience and our creativity is undeniable, and that is our culture. Because we are resilient. They can't get us down. They can't take it away from us. They try and try, but it ain't gonna work. And it's all because we are in direct covenant with God. Believe it or not. Some of you haven't realized that, but you will. You will. Anyway, God's presence and favor is the second point about Joseph's suffering. Despite his circumstances, the Bible repeatedly states that the Lord was with Joseph. God's favor and blessings were evident through his integrity and faithfulness. And people recognized, the sinners recognized that their God was with Joseph and they would always use him. And even though they were using him, they was making his life better. The Bible says he'll make your enemies your footstool. And it's a true fact. So even though they thought they were using him, they was making his life better too. He went to prison. Chief of the prison said, I want you to run my prison. He was in slavery. The guy who first bought him, I want you to run my house because I know that God is with you. He tells Pharaoh and interprets the dream for Pharaoh, and Pharaoh says God is with this guy. And he ends up running second in command to the kingdom of Egypt. Even though he's a Hebrew, and it shows you that they thought it was detestable to sit down with a Hebrew and eat. So the Egyptians didn't eat with him. He had Egyptians that worked for him, that wouldn't eat with him because he was a Hebrew. And he was second in command. He was running the whole kingdom. Ain't that something? One of the third points is the turning point. Joseph's ability to interpret dreams led to his release from prison. So our creativity and our resilience have always brought us out on top. No matter what they've tried to do to us, we have survived with our resilience and our creativity. We have figured things out. And trust me, no matter what they try, it's not going to work. Because we have a true covenant with God. So Joseph's ability to interpret dreams led his to release from prison, his promotion second in command in Egypt, directly under Pharaoh. Fourth point is fulfilling a greater purpose. God used Joseph's position to prepare Egypt and the surrounding region for a devastating famine. So because God placed him in that area as Pharaoh's second in command, he not only saved Egypt, he saved the world. Because they saved so much food, they were selling it to other countries. And the other countries survived because of Joseph and his dream and the fact that they saved those 7 years of great harvest. They saved so much they couldn't even count it, how much they saved. They was trying to, but it was too much. Because it wasn't just for them, it was for the whole country. All the countrymen and everybody around. It was for the whole world at that point in time. And Joseph realized this. And you notice in the scripture, he says, listen, what you guys meant for my bad, God meant for my good. God did this because I had to come through this process, not just to save Egypt, but to save the world. The ultimate redemption. During the famine, Joseph's own family came to Egypt seeking food. So you're going to be redeemed. No matter what people do to you, you're going to be redeemed. Because we're redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. He was able to provide for them, which led to their reconciliation, the preservation of his family, fulfilling God's plan for them to become a great nation. Lessons from Joseph's story, a few takeaways. God can use evil for good. Ain't that a kick? I always talk about this book written by written by, God, I keep forgot his name. But he wrote a book called The Screw Tape Letters. What's the name? Who's this writer? My daughter should know the writer.
C.S. Lewis.
C.S. Lewis. See, my daughter knows the writer. But C.S. Lewis wrote a book called The Screw Tape Letters about this demon who kept attacking this dude, and it didn't work because the more he attacked, the more faithful he became. And he got tired and worn out. So God can use evil for good. Joseph's story is a powerful example of how God can reweave evil intentions into a plan for good. So whatever somebody have for bad for you, God will turn into good as long as you stay faithful to God. Stay faithful to God and forgive, and you're always going to be blessed. Faithfulness in hardship leads to blessings. Despite the suffering, Joseph's perseverance and faithfulness were key to God's ultimate plan. God is always with you. Joseph's journey is a reminder that God is present and active even in the darkest times. Forgiveness is a powerful tool. Joseph decision to forgive his brothers instead of seeking revenge demonstrates the redemptive power of forgiveness. So because Joseph remained faithful and he kept his integrity, didn't sleep with the woman, and he forgave his family, he was even more blessed. So we have to understand that whatever happens to you, as long as you're connected with God, you have to remain faithful. You have to forgive those who have done you wrong and remain your integrity in your faithfulness and in your belief. And just keep it moving. Keep it moving. Forgive them and keep it moving, especially for those who do you wrong and you've done nothing wrong. And you're going to run into that because when you connect to God, the devil got to try something to mess with you. Attack somebody in your family or, attack something in you or attack your finances or whatever the case may be. But if you stay faithful and you know this is just a big blessing is coming. Like I say, whenever something really bad happens, I go, there must be a big blessing coming. Because my mother used to do that. And so I've gotten to that habit of saying that. Well, there must be a big blessing coming. And there's always a big blessing. As long as you stay faithful and you keep your integrity and you forgive. Those are the three takeaways I want you to take from Joseph's story. He was redeemed because he was faithful. He never lost his integrity and he forgave. So you remember that. And remember, we as a Black people, our culture is resilience and creativity. That sums it all up. If anybody asked you that, I was so ashamed that the lady couldn't answer that question. And she kept saying, jazz music and hip hop and things like that. And that all is a part of it, but creativity encompasses everything. I mean, I was surprised she didn't say, the Morgan guy who created the light, the stoplight, or, the man who created plasma for blood. I don't understand why she didn't know these things. There's a book you can buy, The Inventions by Black America. You can literally buy and teach your kids all these things that Black people have done that they don't want you to know about. They're trying to wipe us away right now. Get rid of museums, get rid of books. But as long as you teach your family, you're fine, you're good to go. Can't nobody tell them nothing. So remember, just as Joseph, anything you go through, as long as you keep your faithfulness, you keep your righteousness, you keep your forgiveness, God will prevail. God will always prevail. So you remember that. So in the end, what happened was this. And I'm paraphrasing. He ends up telling his brothers who he is. They don't recognize him. He says, come closer. Remember, they haven't seen him in years since he was a kid. They come close. They realize his father. They go and they sin. He sins for his father. His father comes. His father and his whole family comes. They're so happy. And they end up living there and being well taken care of. So that's the story of Joseph. So all that he went through was for a purpose. It was for a purpose. And remember, when you're connected with God, anything you go through, there's a purpose for it. You may not understand the purpose, as Joseph didn't understand. Not until he saw his brothers again and realized that, oh, this was the purpose. You guys meant it for my good. My bad, but God meant it for my good. I had to go and weave through this way in order to redeem the whole world and feed the whole world. Because if you guys hadn't sold me, I would have never been bought by Potiphar. I would have never been in prison. I would have never met the Pharaoh. None of that would have happened. You know, he didn't understand his dream. They didn't like his dream. Are we going to bow down to you? What happens? They bow down prostrate. You know what prostrate is? They on their face and their belly. Just like he said they would. You know? And so he was redeemed because he just followed what God told him to do. He didn't know what was happening to him, what was happening to him, why it was happening to him. A lot of times we don't know why certain things happen to us. We don't understand it. We don't get it. I've done everything right. I believe in you, God. I pray, I fast. I give my tithes. I do what I need to do for the church. I do what I need to do for other people. I try to be the best I can be in this world, on this earth. I try to be my brother's keeper. And yet this happens. This has happened to me. And we do cry, why? 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 An answer that can never be, a question that can never be answered. But if we just say, God, whatever it is, take me through it, and let me just go through it, and I hope it, and really believe in our faith that it's for something good, something better is coming down the line, then God will show it to you. And the more you go through things, the more faithful you become. The stronger you should become in God. The more you should realize that, okay, nobody could have delivered me from this but God. There's nobody else who could have delivered me from this. Nobody could have delivered me from this pain and this depression, and this anxiety, and this hurt, this deep hurt, and that we all get sometimes in our life. Nobody can deliver you from that but God. No human can deliver it from you. Nobody. It has to be God. And that's one of God's purposes. It's so that we can depend on him and nobody else. We depend on God for everything. It's a hard concept. It's a hard thing to do because we grow up depending on our parents or depending on friends or depending on our environment, our community of people. And there's nothing wrong with that. But your dependence should always first be in God. Because when you depend on him, he's never going to let you down. Humans will let you down. Even your father and your mother, brother, sister, best friend you've known since first grade, they can let you down. But God will never let you down because he knows you better than you know yourself. He knows you way better than you know yourself. He knows your thoughts before you know your thoughts. He may see what you're going to go into, even though he try to give you warnings not to go into it, but you do it anyway. Because whatever choice we make, we have to deal with the consequences of that choice. Can't get around it once we make that choice. Once we're deep into it, we can't change it. We got to go through it. And we got to suffer with the consequences. But God will help you because his yoke is easy and his burdens are light. So he'll help you through those bad choices, through that bad situation, through that hurt, gut-wrenching hurt that you think you can't get over, through that anxiety and depression that you think, what the hoot, I don't want to be here no more. It's just too much. I can't handle the pain. I can't, He'll help you through all of that. He'll help you through all of that. And Joseph's story proves it. How do you feel? I mean, can you imagine how he felt? He was young and his brothers sold him into slavery out of jealousy. How do you think he felt? Wondering, why would they do this to me? I don't understand. What did I do? He had no clue. He was young. Just told them my dream. He had no clue that they were jealous of him. That kind of thought didn't even cross his mind because he loved his family. And they do him like this. And remember, he was angry for a long time. He He was angry for a long time. Why'd they do me like this? Then he gets to Potiphar. Potiphar realizes he has the blessing of God on him. He said, listen, take over my household. Everything you touch turns to gold. He makes Potiphar a richer man, but his life is also improving. Because now he's having a better life than he had probably when he was watching the sheep. Then Potiphar's wife finds him handsome, good looking, wants a piece of him. And he goes, I would never do this. This is disrespectful. You should be ashamed of yourself. And because he shut her down, she steals his robe. Potiphar comes home and says, look, he tried to have relations with me. And of course, Potiphar is going to get mad. That's his wife. And because he was so concerned with the way things looked, he had to punish him. He probably didn't believe his wife, but he had to punish Joseph. So he sent him to jail. He goes to jail. The chief of the jail said, oh, this guy's got a blessing on him. He's running the jail. Better than the chief was running it. Meets these two guys that work for the Pharaoh. Interprets their dream. Say, listen, when you get out there, don't forget about me. Tell the Pharaoh that, I'm in here, so I need to speak to him. And he wanted to speak to the Pharaoh and just let him know that he was wrongly accused. But that's not what happened. They forgot about him for 2 years. He was still in there 2 years, wondering what happened. Lord, have you forsaken me? What's going on? I thought this guy was definitely going to tell me. I interpreted his dream. I thought, I'm still for 2 years. What's really going on? Was God preparing him? Of course God was. Because in all that time, he never lost his faith in God. Never lost his faith in God. It's like Job. Job never lost his faith in God. So finally, eventually, after 2 years he said, oh, I know somebody can interpret your dream. And then at this point, he meets the Pharaoh. He interprets the Pharaoh's dream. The Pharaoh's hiring, get him out of there, hire him, He realizes, God is with you, son. You need to be working for me. So he's working for Pharaoh. He puts him over this, puts him over that. Everything he puts him over succeeds, gets better, makes more and more progress. And he says, you know what? I'm going to make you my right-hand man. Nobody will be greater in Egypt other than me. But you're second in command. He gives him the ring. He gives him a ring with the Pharaoh's signature on it. Signet ring. Letting people know, do not touch this man. This man is when he says something, it's like it's coming from the Pharaoh. He not only saves Egypt from famine, he saves the world. The world. And when he finally meets his family, he realizes the whole purpose of why he went through what he went through. And he cries. He forgives them. And all that time, never losing his faith, never losing his integrity. The whole thing about the wife is the integrity thing. He wasn't going to do that. He wasn't going to sleep with his boss's wife. Not after all the boss had done for him. That's integrity, when nobody's watching. Your true character is what you do when nobody's watching. If you have true integrity, it's what you do when nobody's watching. And that is what the truth of the matter is. And it's just to let you know that no matter what circumstances, situations, hurt, heartaches, and pains, psychological traumas, in God, you can be delivered. In God, you can be delivered. And he's the only one that will deliver you. I was watching a documentary about this guy who was in a cult, and they believed in the demons and all this other stuff. He was a white guy, and he was like, but I had this, he said he had this epitome, something happened to him where he had this experience with God. And he's coming out and he's speaking at this document, in this document he's speaking with the at this church, and he was saying, God deliver me from all of that. And he said, you guys just don't know how many people believe in that crazy stuff. But God delivered me, my God, fathers. And the man was so faithful and so strong in his faith because he had been through, as far as he was concerned, hell on earth. And he was explaining, you guys don't understand. There's so many people who believe in this stuff. And there's so many things they do. And that it's real, but God will deliver you from it. And he says they're after getting me because he's exposing them. But he says he don't care. Because if he dies, he's going to heaven. And that's what he don't mind. He says, I'm about my Father's business. This is what this young man is saying. After all he's been through, the whole family's wrapped up in him. And he broke loose. Because God can deliver you from everything. He can do everything but fail. God can do anything but fail. And you have to realize that for you. I dare you to try God. I dare you. I dare you to try God. Try God and see what happens. And if it doesn't change you, then you ain't trying the God I know. Try God. He'll change you. Find yourself a church. Come to this church. Or find yourself a teaching church. Learn the Bible for yourself. Study to show yourself approved. Dig deep, not the surface. The surface is fine, but you got to dig deep. You got to research. You got to dig. And it's not that difficult now with this AI stuff and chat PG, but you still got to double check it. But the information is there. It's out there. You think that God isn't going to, he's not going to, benefit from all this AI stuff? Trust me, God is in control. So they think they're doing something smart. But then you're going to have people digging deeper into who God really is. So it's going to help people study even more, dig even deeper, which is a good thing. But God is good. And I want you to know God is good. So until next week, we will be back and we'll go into a different section. And I'll explain that next week. But God bless you. See you next week. And if you're in the area on Sunday, the English version of church is 10 to 12 here at 347 West 6th Avenue, Newark, New Jersey. Also, look at our website. You can give if you want to. We're on YouTube. You can give through several things like Zelle and Cash App. So there's several you can give to keep us going in what we're doing. We're doing a lot of things over here at this church. Look at our website, you will see what we're doing. We got the food bank and we have certain other things and we do a lot of things. And we do need help. Everybody needs help. So God bless you. See you next week. This is Pastor Tony saying I'll see you next week and may God bless the rest of your week.